Oblivion awaits.
Love. Yes, JangBi taking first blood. And now, Fantasy, I hate to say it, man, but, well, you're no longer undefeated in the tournament. It's sad. That would have been cool. If Fantasy could have won the OSL completely undefeated, would have been legendary, but unfortunately, that's impossible now. Finally faced an opponent who could take a win off of him. Imagine that. I mean, Flash couldn't even do it. But JangBi, showing that it can be done right out of the gate. So now Fantasy got to claw his way up just like every other player in this tournament. Here we go, second set, New Sniper Ridge is the map. And I have a very important statistic to tell you. And by very important, I mean completely inconsequential. Here we go. Except, up at the 2 o'clock position in purple is JangBi. That means over the 10 o'clock in orange is Fantasy. Not cross positions this time. But that very important statistic, well actually factoid, that I wanted to tell you, was this. In my research I have found that JangBi has faced Fantasy on the map Fantasy. It freaking blew my mind. Well, Fantasy 2 specifically. And, uh-oh, kind of a bad omen for this series. JangBi won that game. Yikes. It can't be good. Losing on your home turf like that? Of course, this was in 2008, but who's counting? Certainly not me. Me no good at math. But I'm pretty almost positive that Fantasy named himself for that map. The map Fantasy. So I think the map Fantasy came before the player Fantasy. And JangBi, which is actually pronounced JangBi, but I've been pronouncing it JangBi for so long that I can't stop now. JangBi is named after a Chinese warlord or general or something like that. JangBi. JangBi or something like that. But there's a gateway from JangBi. Oh, Tasteless and Artosis in the audience. Tastosis, if you will. One of the probably the longest casting Brewed War commentators since they did World Cyber Games in 2005 and on. I've had quite a few people tease me lately, like, hey Nuke, since Cholera's casting again and Moletrap is doing this final, everyone's like, hey Nuke, you the longest casting caster now? Huh? Well, in terms of consistency, sure. But in terms of first Brewed War game, last Brewed War game, absolutely not. Darn it, so close. There's the cybernetic score from JangBi. I'm kidding, it doesn't bother me at all. But I wanted to talk a little bit about slumps. Player slumps. Because when I think of slumps, in general, the player I think of immediately is JangBi, out of anyone else. Because JangBi has had probably the worst slump of any player that has actually recovered from that slump. Some players go into slumps and they never recover, and you just never hear from them again. JangBi made a big dip, but he made it back up pretty much around the time of the last OSL. And that's when he started getting good again, because after the second MSL final he had versus Luxury, he went down and he went down hard. Didn't really recover until last year. And I was mentioning his loss streak earlier, how bad of a loss streak he had. 14 losses in a... Oh, Citadel of Adun from JangBi. He's going Citadel of Adun. So he's going to open with some Dark Templar. Yikes. I had a feeling we'd see some dirty play like this in this series. So I'm glad that's panning out. But let's see if Fantasy will be prepared with some detection. Now, what the hell did that guy have in his hands? That was distracting. But anyway, Fantasy is building his bunker at the front. I think he was inside of the main long enough to see Dragoon range spinning on that cybernetics core, because I could have sworn I saw that spinning earlier and maybe canceled. Maybe I was just seeing things. But anyway, Fantasy does not know about the incoming Templar archives. Hey, look, it's Mole Trap. Yeah, Mole Trap is casting from the audience there, it looks like. Kind of shrouded in a blue mist. Of course, that's Mole Trap for you. Mysterious blue mist Mole Trap. Your mom, man. Anyway, I had to. There's the Nexus coming up with the natural expansion. There's Fantasy so close to scouting. There was a probe there blocking the choke, though. Just trying to keep Fantasy out. And there is January, the coach of Samsung Con, fanning herself like, oh man, I hope this works. I hope this works. There's an engineering bay coming up for Fantasy. That will be critical in about 2 minutes. Because, yeah, Dark Templar are going to be on the way. There's JangBi transferring over to his natural expansion. He's going to still have to keep that scouting away. Because right now, Fantasy, all he's going to have are turrets. He hasn't built up to scan or anything yet. So he just has the turrets to detect these Dark Templar coming his way. But at least he is getting some kind of detection. I've seen some players open with no detection and get completely slaughtered by Dark Templar, which are probably one of the strongest units in the game. One of the most evil units as well, since they can one-shot drones without even a warning on your minimap. That is evil. Pure evil. Okay, here come the Dark Templar. Might be scouted. Fantasy might see the blur on the map. I'm not sure if he was focusing at that exact point of time, but here goes Fantasy. He's going to try to get in and get the scout. This is going to be so close. He has a turret at the front, though, and he's blocking with a supply depot, so I think he did see the glitch on the map. I think he's trying to get prepared for this, because here come 2 Dark Templar working their way up to the front. Oh boy, robotics facility coming up now, and the Dragoon range from Fantasy. Absolutely nuts. So the Dark Templar are probably not going to get a whole lot done. Probably not. Turret being built inside the main just in case those Dark Templar could sneak by, but I don't see them sneaking by anytime soon. There was a complete wall at the natural. JangBi going to be kept out for the time being. And now JangBi was going down with the probe to a prospective 3rd base, I think. Yeah, he's going to try to build his 3rd Nexus, get up his econ, and probably try to sneak in later with some Dark Templar drops. Make use of those Dark Templars somehow. Let's see, more Dragoons coming out of the gateways. JangBi kind of transitioning away from his Dark Templar rush strategy, since he can't really get too much done with them anyway. There's a pylon wall scanned from Fantasy, so Fantasy's trying to see if he can sneak by with the vultures or not. He got the speedy vultures already, so he's going to try to do a run by. Easier said than done, though. He's going to have to get close, possibly lay mines. He does have mines already, so he's going to try to lay mines around these Dragoons. The Dragoons got to back off, snipe the mines before they drag into the clump. Because those Dragoons all clumped up next to that pylon wall, complete pylon wall, I think now, from JangBi, unless he canceled one of those. But the Nexus is coming up. JangBi, Fantasy rather, saw that. So he's completely ready to go. Oh, that is beautiful. Look at that. Last Star League. Excellent. So here's some additional gateways being built. Stargate now from JangBi. And now that he has the Templar archives, he's setting himself up for an Arbiter build. It'll be very easy to get the Arbiters off of this. But there's a Fantasy just camping out behind that 3rd base so we can see if he can take down some more probes before being taken down by the Dragoon. Let's see. Probes being transferred over. I'm just so scared of all the mines that are out. Because I've seen some really amazing mine drags from Fantasy into a collection of probes. Because for some reason, the Protoss player always drags their own unit into the probes, and it's just a nightmare for everyone involved. There's the Dark Templar being scanned. Fantasy takes it out. And he's trying to establish the high ground right outside of the natural to work his way over and take the 12 o'clock. Going to try to expand soon himself. Let's see. There's the Arbiter Tribunal, so Arbiters will be out in the field for JangBi. Off of the Dark Templar opening, the mostly ineffective Dark Templar opening. I'm sure he still has them running around somewhere. and they would be very effective for drops later in the game. If he can get in there with his shuttle, rather. Not the dropship. He's going to have to mind control that if he wants to have his own dropship. Okay, tanks holding the high ground. Right next to that 12 o'clock. Happy couple in the audience. That's cute. Not that I'm bitter. Okay. Arbiter's already on the way. And some mines being laid in the middle. I'm going to force JangBi to do a bit of mine clearing. Coming up with the Dragoons, doing a bit of mine clearing over there. But it's going to be a bit tricky. It's trickier to take out the mines placed next to this base, but Fantasy being warded off. I was trying to find a way to take down a pylon, sneak inside that base, and snipe some probes. Focusing in on the pylon doesn't quite get it to red. Got it to yellow, but he just softened it up for later, I think. For another attack later, so he can finally take down some probes at that base. Let's see, a lot of factories, 6 vac from Fantasy, getting a starport up now. He's established the 12 o'clock, and I'm pretty sure he has that up and mining already. But now JangBi's trying to expand down the eastern side of the map. He's going to try to take the one half of the map, but Fantasy still trying to get by. Another pylon being placed at that wall, backup pylon, just in case the other one went down. So some good anti-vulture defense from JangBi. I'm sure he's practiced that extensively and practiced with his teammates. Like, well, I know this guy is very fond of vultures, and they call him the vulture terrorist, so I should probably be prepared for that. And he's had some excellent pylon walls already. Now he's just chasing around Fantasy. Fantasy trying to be sneaky, laying the mines on the high ground, so if the observer isn't out front, those Dragoons are going to die immediately. Let's see, Vulture hiding down at the 5 o'clock position, just trying to see when the probe was coming down to lay another Nexus. But the Nexus started down at the 5 o'clock position. JangBi is going to try to expand down there, take that. But Fantasy on the other side is gripping up a hell of a lot of tanks. Got a ton of tanks on the high ground. Plenty of Vultures still out in the field as well. Hasn't lost too many of those. He sent them mostly out to harass. They've run into some Dragoon fire, but he's still the aggressor in the game. Just pushing forward. Look at all those Vultures. See if Fantasy can get a surround on these Dragoons. Going to try to lay mines on each side of them to take them down. There goes a mine into a couple of the Dragoons. So JangBi is in trouble here. He takes more mines to the Dragoons, and at this point there are so many Vultures that he could just focus fire with the Vultures to take out the Dragoons, and that's never the position you want to be in as a Protoss player. Gotta chase those freaking things away. Another mine drags into Dragoons, so Fantasy just carving out the Dragoon count, and going to really hinder JangBi's defense of his brand new bases, because he just got up that 5th base, not 5th base, 5 o'clock base. And yeah, Fantasy's still committed to taking out pylons and breaking through the 3 o'clock base. I have no doubt that he's eventually going to do that. He's been so focused on it in this game. I can't imagine that he wouldn't break through that at some point. Let's see here. Where are those Arbiters? I don't see too many. Well, there's the Arbiter at the natural expansion, just getting up energy probably for stasis. Since there are so many tanks out, that would be the best option at this point. Lots of mines being laid just in case of a recall inside of the main, so that's smart. Fantasy has a bunch of mines all over each of his bases, just prepared for the recall. Because it's either going to be the 12 o'clock or the main if JangBi is going for the recall, and a lot of mines were placed at each. So Fantasy is getting prepared for that. Let's see, 2 Arbiters prepared. It comes a bunch of Zealots. The Zealots might have to be dropped. It might have to be some Zealot bombs on top of the tanks. Otherwise, I don't see how JangBi will whittle down this tank army. Yeah, he's got the still the 2 Arbiters hanging outside the natural, getting up the energy. Fantasy preparing for the recall. Got mines everywhere. All kinds of mines and turrets, which will help kill the Arbiter. Usually doesn't take down an Arbiter unless you have a ton of turrets before they get the recall, but it can kill them anyway. making detection not that big of a threat. There would be no Arbiter in the air after that, but another Forge on the way for JangBi. He already has one spinning for his ground upgrades. Here come 2 Arbiters moving down the map. So Fantasy sneaking in with some more Vultures. He's going to try to harass this 5 o'clock base. Is completely out in the open. No troops down here yet. JangBi is moving down with his own troops to get rid of these freaking Vultures. But the Vultures sniping a lot of probes before they're eventually going to be taken down. Okay, so JangBi running back and forth between the 5 o'clock and his natural. Just in complete defensive mode now because he knows that a big push is coming. 2 science vessels out front for the EMP of the Arbiters. But yeah, this is going to be a big push from Fantasy. It's going to be tough to fight this back without stasis or storm. Oh, as soon as I say storm, the High Templar gets sniped. It was just out there completely on its own. So yikes, that's bad. Still, look at the huge tank line that Fantasy has. He's been building up huge tank army, and now he's pushing it, sieging. And he's going to do the slow crawl to take out these bases. He's already making his way over to the natural expansion with Vultures to snipe everything there, and he's put himself in a great position too. And it's going to be so difficult for JangBi to get a pincer attack of that location. Since he's on the high ground and that awkward position in the middle, there's just no way to run up and take out those tanks. Now the tank's going straight over to the natural expansion. A stasis of Vultures, but didn't get any tanks in that. There's an EMP of one of the Arbiters. Another Arbiter stasises a science vessel. But it could be a little bit too late because there's still a huge amount of tanks out. There's a recall on top of the tanks with some Zealots. That's going to help out quite a bit. But still, I'm not sure if there's going to be enough Zealots to clean this up. Dragoons coming from the other side. Zealots doing a pretty good job of just taking out these tanks. So this is going to be a close engagement. It looks like JangBi is going to take it with expertly timed stasises. Oh boy, the Stacies. I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway, so tanks moving over. Reinforcement tanks from Fantasy. He knows if he's going to do this, he has to do this now. He already got a bunch of damage done. So with the reinforcements coming in, he can lock this down. But as a JangBi, the mine dragging and Zealot bombing these tanks. So Fantasy forced back again into the middle of the map. Now, he has a bunch of factories still pumping, so he's not going to let up anytime soon. So JangBi got to be on full defensive mode. Yeah, he's building some more gateways down at the mostly protected 5 o'clock base. Since he has some gateways down there, it's going to be half of his army, the other half going to be at the natural, so he can pincer from those 2 locations. But still, there's Fantasy going for the 3 o'clock, finally killing the pylon wall over there. But here comes an Arbiter, which got off a stasis before it was EMP'd. Eventually was EMP'd though, so have to send that Arbiter away. 0 energy, sad face. But here comes the Arbiter, coming in with a fleet of Zealots, a pod of Zealots, coming in to do some mine dragging. Those Dragoons are going to have to be awfully careful with all the mines that are to the northern side of Fantasy's troops. A couple of mines, you just easily take down all of those Dragoons, so it was smart of JangBi to run back to his main army with those Dragoons. But this is getting increasingly difficult for JangBi. He still has a strong economy going, but he's got to do some mine clearing, especially outside that natural. He's going straight up to the 12 o'clock, going to try to take down the 12 o'clock, moving up with Zealots. Tons of Zealots to this position. Luckily for Fantasy, I don't think he has a mine left in the mining line to take out all those SCVs, because one good mine drag into all those SCVs, that would have been bad. But luckily, I think he got rid of that. But it's still forced to float off anyway and transfer away with his SCVs. So the 12 o'clock in jeopardy as Fantasy going straight down to the 5 o'clock and the 5 o'clock natural. Going to take down the natural, no problem. There's no defenses down there for JangBi at all. And JangBi has an Arbiter in position. Oh, now his 3 o'clock is exposed. He has nothing but Zealots to protect against this. But, oh, yeah, man, this Base is very much in jeopardy with all the mines being laid around at the vultures. Take out all the probes. JangBi losing his grip on his economy. GG from JangBi. Yeah, he just took so many economic hits at the end that it would almost be impossible to recover at that point. Okay, strong showing from Fantasy, and this is a series now. I like it. On to the third set.